Hello, everybody. My name is Melissa Schmitz, and I'm the track chair for Enterprise XR today. We have a great couple talks to end AWE 2023 in the Enterprise track today. But before we get to our next talk, I just have a few brief housekeeping announcements. So first of all, we want to thank our sponsors. So our gold sponsors today include Ant Reality, Arbor XR, HoloLight, Lenovo, Sightful, and Zapper. So thank you guys for all of your amazing support on this amazing conference, as well as a big thank you to our titanium sponsors as well, which include Magic Leap, Niantic, Qualcomm, Snap AR, and XReal. So it's also good to know that the expo will close at 3 p.m. today. So if you haven't had a chance to see all the things you need to see, make sure you do that before 3 p.m. And the closing remarks will also be at 3:30 p.m. today in the main hall. So be sure to check that out as well. So now we're going to get on to our panel session, which is called The Ultimate Tech Trifecta, AI, 5G, and XR join forces to reshape the digital world. The moderator for this session will be Jason Yim, CEO of Trigger XR. So Jason, please take it away.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here. Appreciate you being here on the last day of the panel. So either you guys are all hardcore AR people or you're getting over a hangover. So either way, you're good people. So quick introduction for myself. I'm CEO of Trigger XR. We're the world's most experienced XR agency. 300,000 hours, basically strategizing, building, and running XR projects for the world's biggest brands. We've done a lot of 5G work, so with partners like Verizon and AT&T in the US. We're also part of the XR Global Telco Alliance that's led by LGU Plus with some other 5G operators around the world. And then on the AI side, besides using it internally for efficiency at Trigger, we're also deploying that for our clients as well. So working with people like Niko to create AI assistants, and then also integrating in-world technology into things like Web AR and Roblox, being first to commercialize that tech in Roblox. But enough about me. Just really want to talk about our awesome panelists here. So start with Niko. So Niko, we've worked together for a long time now. I would just say that besides being a leader in the XR space, he also handpicks his herbs daily when he cooks, which is pretty awesome. And anyways, Niko.
Thank you, Jason. And those are herbs like, chives and rosemary and
That's the real herbs.
Parsley.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you for having me on the panel. I run a product innovation team at Verizon that builds enterprise solutions at the nexus of XR and 5G. So really taking advantage of high bandwidth, low latency, and edge compute to supercharge XR experiences, and about 98% focused on the enterprise space this year. So.
And then Joana, so I actually met Joana through her husband. Luke, who I met, I thought, man, he's like one of the most talented people in the XR space. And then I met Joana, and it turns out he's second in his household, which is crazy. And I haven't met their kids yet, so I don't know how low he's gonna drop. So anyways, Joana.
Far too kind. Thank you. Hi, I'm Joana. I'm EP at InWorld AI. We at InWorld, we're an AI platform. We provide brains for characters. My background, as Jason was mentioning, is from XR, and in a way, this is a really significant AWE to be here, because if you have worked in over a decade in XR, and now you have this technology that InWorld brings to our ability to have truly immersive stories, but actually bringing life to characters. It's when the sense of convergence of media is coming together. So for all that are storytellers and have been waiting for this moment, that we have all these different technologies at intersection, and the ability to have this in real time with very little latency. It's incredibly exciting. So yeah, it's super important for us to InWorld to be here with the XR community, and I can't wait to tell you more about what we do.
And let's be honest, InWorld is the belle of the ball. And if you're not aware of what they do, shame on you. And if you are, what have you built? And please share, because I'm sure it's pretty awesome.
Thank you, Niko.
And then with Lucian, we've only recently started working together, but even from our first meeting, I feel like he's probably solved nuclear fission just as a pastime, and he just hasn't had time to show everyone yet. But amazingly smart guy. You should Google the stuff that he's been working on. It's really kind of a true innovation. But please.
Thank you. So currently, I'm doing something that is called UX innovation in the space of connected car services, trying to connect software with devices like his and so on. With Nissan, I've been for the last almost 20 years, and I've been looking at everything that happens to the human being in the car. My main major actually is applied neuroscience. So I've been trying to trick people that Nissan cars drive better than other cars, that our navigation is better than anything else. And I'm looking also at XR as trying to trick people that what we are feeding them is as close to reality as possible. And my angle has been, what do we learn from the brain in order to enhance whatever experience that we've been doing? So if you go online and you search, you put my name and Nissan, what you'll see brain to vehicle, you see brain to performance. So what we've been saying, we kind of build brain connectivity ready vehicles. Now we're trying to say what is to be done in order to build XR connectivity ready vehicles, and this is what we've been looking at for the last few years in our small research center here in California.
Cool. So just a little bit on the structure of the talk today. Like I think it's really special to have these speakers on because there are a lot of kind of experts in AI, and there's a lot of kind of academics and theory out there. But I think the three people sitting next to me here, they're builders, they're makers. So a lot of the stories that they're going to tell today actually come from working with the technology versus just reading a whole bunch of articles and spewing it back out on technology. Wanted to kind of follow a story format, and at the very end of it, we'll do an audience Q&A. So yeah, please think about what questions that you might have for these great guests that we have. One quick comment or note is trying to show how all these three elements combine together. So on the left, you basically have everything on the consumer and enterprise side. You know, this is digital transformation, right? All the benefits and purposes of digital transformation on the left exists, you know, in the cloud as data or kind of services through AI, but that actually has to pass through and be passed on to the user through 5G networks, so you get it at kind of fast enough speed, and it's all through a XR lens at the very end, right? So we're going to be consuming it through phones for now, but more and more will be through glasses. Anyone want to add to this?
Bring on 5th of June.
Bring on 5th of June, yeah. So the first story from Lucian. Yeah.
It's about trying to build a very smart AI system to support people in the factory to find defects when you would be building a new EV motor, failing gracefully, and then dig up building AI and AR training system for the people who would be checking those parts. So it's a few years back. Within Nissan, we have a very clear structure. You've got researchers that look at things that happen 10 years from now, advanced engineering 5 years, and engineering the guys who are actually building cars. At the time, I had the freedom to be, even before this research, where I was doing, again, research for innovation. They came to me and said, hey, you've got the freedom to move around the company, now build us a very smart AI system to help our guys in the factory. We were building new motors for our cars, new lines, and they were getting these failures at the end, failures of human being able to detect errors. And this is very important because you'd have a car on the road with an engine that would not, a motor that would not function for long. And so I picked up a few researchers. They built this beautiful neural net that learned how to see things and then learned how to detect the defects from very small data sets, because you don't have thousands of broken or wrong manufactured devices. You have just a few of them, and you need to learn through that. We said, okay, we've got an algorithm. Factory people, let us put this in there. And they will go like, okay, but where do we fit? We have this line already working. How do we do? You take this, you make another line just for you to detect, and you need to automatically move the piece to be seen by a camera and so on. Huge rejection there. So I say, all right, then how can we still help the human being? We ended up with a set of HoloLenses, applying the same algorithm to find the defects on those pieces. Again, we've got the product. Let us work with you guys. Let's put it into the factory floor. We put it in the factory floor. After 1 week, we've got all the 4 workers coming back to us. It's too heavy. It's too hot. And it helped me in these 2 weeks. I detected 1 out of the 5 devices that they could find by themselves. It helped them with 1. So it's a very rare case, very important, but still very rare. We went back to the factory organization per se. Can we turn down the air conditioning 2 degrees lower for these people to be actually able to wear No way. You cannot cool all this place where 1,000 people are working for these 4 to have a proper temperature for your device to detect better one more engine on the line. So again, third pivot there. We now have a system that, working together with the human being, can detect better the defects. But also, we have now a system that if the person would be wearing, we would know what they are looking at, and we can also project on pieces where they actually need to check what to look at. So why don't we use this for training? This type of lines and people, they do change with each model change, and you'll have new workers trying to learn how to use or how to handle these new motors. So we ended up with know-how transformation from the training program. We ended up with an AR-driven and AI collaborative system that helps train workers in the factory. So before having a new person standing on the floor, they would be going through this HMD-based training program, and they would be starting working. We've got a short video of how this works. So this is a factory in Tochigi where we're building a cool area, a new EV that we're making there. And then the core technology in there, it's a new, this is an EV powertrain, and the last check, it's still done by human beings. After it's been all put together, it's one last final check done by workers in the factory. So this would be the training program that would teach a worker in the factory which pieces need to be checked in what order. And one of the good things is not only that the training time went to half, but also you've seen the trainer per se doesn't need to be in the room. It's actually 10 times quicker from the trainer point of view. So I just added a few more views afterwards to share with the community. This is the initial trial. We were trying to get this kind of pieces off the line and then check them again. And this is the eye tracking within there. This is not for the user per se. It is actually for the trainer to see that the user is looking in the correct order at the pieces and parts that he needs to see. And this is where we're also leveraging quick network communication because the trainers, they don't need to be, it's one trainer working with workers around different factories in the world. And then again, the same person who did the training can can execute a lot quicker in the line of factory per se. So it depends how you look at it. For me, this is actually a failure story, starting with a super smart AI, thinking that we would be very helpful within the new factory overall, and we ended up with helping workers learn a lot quicker how to do their jobs. I think that's all in terms of video, and it's in terms of story as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Lucian. Like a couple of follow-up questions. I'm wondering, I mean, that's super interesting, just that you didn't, we always think about, normally now when we think about AI, you have these massive libraries that you can pull from and learn from. So something like this, like you said, there wasn't that much data to start with. Like,
yes.
did you mock up broken, like incorrect things? Like, how did you build enough to know you had enough of a library?
So again, I'm not an AI specialist. My understanding is what they've been, so they build a network that first can learn objects, can see objects, can make differences, can see small differences between similar objects and things like that. So a detail detection oriented network. And then you would have thousands of good samples and just like 10 to 15 bad samples or broken, defective motors. It would still be, it was 90-something percent, 95%, something like that. The human being would be, again, similar. Working together, you get a few more percent, as it happens with, I don't know, technicians looking at cancer pictures and so on. Very similar with that situation. The initial challenge was that you don't have that many many pieces, so we need to train on something else and apply it to the actual devices.
Yeah, like that whole like 95 individually, but it's like 98% when you combine them. Those two together, I think, will dovetail really well.
It's kind of common sense, right? Within this world. For us, we're mainly automotive, right? And it's 5 years back. It's like, okay, let's work this and see it works. But then again, even if it works, real world is a lot tougher than having a smart algorithm that can help a human being to make a better decision.
And knowing that like the AI development or this project took a bit of a meandering path, would you approach AI-related projects differently in R&D next time?
That's me. And that's why they keep me and they let me do all these awkward things for the last 20 years, because I think, yeah, if you aim for the final goal, you might be reaching there, but you might be reaching 20% lower than that. You might have been able to do a quick learning training program from the beginning if we aimed for that, but trying to do something a lot more difficult at the beginning. Now we have people who continue to work internally on other type of defects, on looking at painting defects, on doing, we've got our own internal programs on predictive maintenance, because we have now algorithms that can look, for example, tires and predict tire degradation and so on, because we started with something that in the end was not applied.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think, so one of the takeaways on Lucian's, I think, is this idea of experimenting early, especially with AI. It's not, in R&D, it's not going to be a straight line anyways, but I think especially in AI, you might have even a more meandering path. But like you said, there's so much learnings that can come from it. So, and now we can move on to Joana.
Brilliant. So it's so interesting to hear about Lucian's path and how it's being used in the real world in the automotive industry, how AI is being leveraged in that capacity, and see how there's a human collaboration and how the AI is enhancing the human capabilities. And in a way, in World AI, I think that's at the core. It's what we're proposing in a very different industry. And and capacity. So we're very much, before I tell you a little bit about the case study that we'd like to share with you today, I would say that at the core of it, it's still that collaboration between how AI can give like wings to us humans as creators. So at In World AI, we are very much a personality engine. So we, you've probably seen a few projects out there that are plugging ChatGPT, which leverage like big language models. In our platform, our platform does leverage those, but we have our own like mid-size and smaller models that allow us to be multimodal. And when we think about personality, character is not just a chatbot, is not the ability to have a conversation one-on-one, but we're thinking about in a fully immersive experience, and that is about gesture power, emotions, what's the contextual understanding of the character, or however you want to, your trainer, we're talking about training, having who's that trainer understanding of that reality and that world, having a fourth wall, having safety, and give all those tools and the powers to creators for their experiences. And those experiences can be games, which, NPCs are there like screaming for years, please give us some intelligence so we can take active part on games, but also, immersive narrative or training, as we were discussing, or ambassador for brands that want to connect and give support to their clients in a more intelligent and personalized way. So our tool, integrates within all the engines out there, and we bring all these tools to give full control to creators in that sense. And the case study that we're bringing today, it's this study that we've been doing with the author, Neil Stephenson. He's well known for Snow Crash and for coining the term metaverse, and someone that is so in tune within our industry and a thought leader in this space. So we've been doing a study where he's been using our platform, and we've been collaborating with him to understand from a narrative point of view, what does the future of an immersive narrative looks like, and how can we leverage our platform and In World to power characters and have an interaction between creator and creature and see what the outcome of that is. So this is a 1-year-long study. We're currently developing part 2 of that as we speak. But what I would love to show you a little snippet, Jason, if that's okay, is part 1, where we're leveraging meta-human technology, and then you can see the outcome of this collaboration.
The interesting question is, can you use such a character as a medium for revealing a story world? And can you do it in a controlled way? From the very beginning of computers, people have wanted to use computers to simulate things. Classically it's like doing weather simulations or nuclear bomb simulations or sort of technical simulations, but there have always been people who wanted to use it to do creative projects. And I think it's kind of the same impulse that makes people love theater. If you think about what happens in theater production or cinema production, it's a bunch of people getting together with technology and ideas and trying to build an artistic thing that is, it reflects reality, but it's fictional. It's creative at the same time. Games are no exception. A lot of people who work in games have some kind of background in theater or art of one kind or another, and love that experience of creating a simulated reality. And there's different ways to do that depending on where you are in the curve of technology. But it's really just in the last year or two that all of the pieces have come together for these characters, these fictional characters. We've got the meta-human stuff from Epic that makes it easier to create highly realistic avatars. We've got animation systems that can make those avatars move, and we've got AI technology that can actually elicit interesting responses from these characters that are not totally predictable, and we can interact by just simply by talking to them.
I've come to lead you to the other shore, into eternal darkness, to fire, into ice. That's what I'm here for. To take you away from this realm of the mundane and bring you closer to understanding the metaverse. Ready for an adventure.
You seem a little uncomfortable. Is everything okay?
Oh, sorry about that. It's what I like to call a divine glitch.
I'm
It's like-
sorry, this is the wrong brains, I think.
Where can I go shopping?
Shopping in the metaverse is an experience like no other. In each of the 8 sectors of Vertex 4, you can find a variety of stores, boutiques, and markets. From high-end designer goods to unique one-of-a-kind items, there's something for everyone. For a truly unique shopping experience, I recommend visiting the Wedgelord markets located in Sector 8. There you can find anything from exotic spices to rare artifacts from across the metaverse.
Do you have a soul?
Well, my soul is a bit of a mystery, but if you're asking if I'm capable of feeling, then yes, sometimes. Though it's usually just when quoting Dante or one of the other greats. Divine glitch? Sorry about that.
It's okay, it was a great answer. Are there insects in Vertex 4?
I'm not sure about insects, but I'm sure there's a few bugs in the code.
So what has been interesting for us in this process, and as I mentioned, this is V1, so we're still working through broadening gestures, micro expressions of the character, so we hope by the end of this study, we're gonna have very human-like, hyper-real experience in this one-on-one between creator and creature. What was interesting for us is to understanding that you have someone like Neil Stephenson, that incredible writer that understands how a narrative arc works, and you get so excited about the possibilities of bringing old tools as we've known them for hundreds of years as us as human co-creators, and use this tool to have the ability to input all that knowledge, all those traits, create that character from the paper, input into the system of AI, and then learn from that character to expand the universe that you are writing about or co-creating as, in this space. So we truly believe that this is the essence of what's the possible doing here, and how leveraging AI is in this collaboration and augmented the universes, So where we would love to move forward, and we will move forward, is to create spaces that they're Verge, that is meant to be a sales assistant within this new metaverse. Then we'll have multiple Verges, multiple characters, and you're able to populate and navigate and experience these new ways of building narratives in a true collaboration between human and AI.
And so just quickly on the process. So Neil, through your program, he's entering all these facts, and then you
beyond
run,
facts.
and then he'll
Exactly. So it will do like you would do like in the book. Yet extend understanding on the personality of the character. Background, history. Where does the character live? Where does it want to go? What's his role? And our system allows him to feed all of that. Control then all the personality traits that Verge is meant to be in his early 20s. He gets nervous sometimes when he has to talk to people. He's very proud that has Virgil when he found that's his background. He has all these things that comes from Neil's universe. But then Neil gets a chance to talk to him, and whatever he comes back with enhances and augments, it enriches that universe.
So it's this cycle where
Exactly.
he enters it, and then he talks to Verge, and then from there he can enter and
Exactly.
tweak more stuff.
But he's the creator, he's the source of everything. And he is also, our system allows him to add different scenes that move the storytelling and the different experiences. Right?
And then when Neil sees something that he likes more of, or when he sees something that he doesn't like, can he surgically remove some reaction and.
Yes, so you can control from an animation point of view. So that was very interesting, right? Because it's not just about the words or the knowledge. It's about, like a director we do with an actor, right? Neil had a really clear vision that this character should have at some points inspiration in classic gestures. That's at the core of what that character was, right? So of course we fed that into the system, and then at certain situations the character pulls those mannerisms like we do as humans. But that comes from the creator, that is Neil, and the input of that to our system.
And the question I have for this is, so it's super interesting, like a year's worth of work, and it's amazing the amount of kind of micro expressions that you kind of building over time.
Exactly.
But when you think about scaling, like you want to fill a whole city and everyone's different, then how does that happen?
The same way as you build iteratively. And you can think, for me, is the future of what a book, what immersive narrative looks like, and you keep populating, and characters in our system, you're allowed to have a common knowledge, and they all have different roles, and then they'll be able to communicate with one another, and you with them, and you iteratively build this world once again. But Neil feeds that source of truth.
Yeah.
And the possibilities. You've been tinkering a little bit with
Yes.
it. How you can build in different scenes and trigger actions and contextual understanding, and how that gets quite complex in terms of that storytelling. So
I'm pretending to be a noob.
yeah.
So I think a great takeaway from Joanna's presentation is, again, like planning for this human and AI collaboration from the very beginning, and that also, of course, dovetailed in with what Lucian was saying as the end benefit of their project was, 1 + 1 = 3. And then from here, we'll jump onto Niko's.
Once upon a time, there was a simple guy, protagonist in our story, we'll call him Oaken. And he worked for a company called Schmorizon. And he set out to try and do some good, and ended up doing some good and opening a giant can of worms. The end. So I'd like to tell you about an experience that we are currently going through. So this is a story with a beginning and a middle, and the end is yet to be written. You may or may not be aware that Verizon has a very deep relationship. A very big part of what we do is related to the first responder community. So when a natural disaster happens, a hurricane, a flood, whatever, a toxic waste spill, and first responders come in, regardless of who they are, police, fire, EMT, FEMA, the first thing that everybody needs is communication. So Verizon works very closely with all of those agencies, the ones you know and the shady ones that you don't, to provide communication and prioritize communication for first responders in these, terrible situations. So with that in mind, my team was thinking about our technologies and 5G, and we came across a company that is an AR, AI, data analytics driven company called Avrio that basically provides augmented reality training for first responders in the surroundings or in the setting that they would typically be performing their activities. I'll explain that a little better in a moment. But what I want to do right now is have you think about how first responder training exists today. And I'll use a slightly dark example, but relevant, which is active shooter training. And the example is think about active shooters in schools. which unfortunately, anyway. So today, a police department who usually is the first to respond to an active shooter situation in a school, the way they train for that scenario or similar is very analog. They rent a space, a warehouse, a factory, any place with a big room. They hire actors, hair, makeup, catering services, craft services, and they block, much like a theater production, they block scenarios, and then they take the typical response team, which is either an individual or a squad, or think SWAT team, and they run them through the scenario. Large police departments like the NYPD or LAPD do this, and it's very expensive, and it's very time consuming, and they usually can only do it once or twice a year. So extrapolate that out. An entire police department gets active shooter training, actual active shooter training, once or twice a year. And now think about how many times that's happening in our nation. And sorry, one last detail is when they go through that training, at best the teams, depending on the size of the department, can only do the actual training part 2, 3, 4 times before that's the whole day, and that's pretty typical. What's also typical is that hardly any police department can afford to do this. Only the big ones. The medium-sized ones, maybe. The small ones, no. So they don't have active shooter training. They watch a YouTube video or flip through a PowerPoint or talk to their colleagues. That is the reality today. So the good news is the bar for training, the standard that exists today is pretty low. And XR technologies coming in to assist with that can just transform this particular area. So this company goes beyond what most people have thought about, including myself, which is the community, the XR community, when they were first thinking about first responders or police training, started building everything in VR. And that's decent. It's fully immersive, as we all know. But it's still abstract or abstracted, from our reality, and you have to sort of take what you learn and apply it to the real situation. In AR, what Avrio does is they scan your location, so your school, your elementary school, your middle school, your high school, or your retail store or your venue. So they create a 3D map, digital twin of that. Then they use augmented reality, not VR. They use augmented reality and currently optimized for the Magic Leap 2 headset, which has a bunch of capabilities in it that are pretty amazing. Mobility is one. Brightness is another. But it takes advantage of that 3D map, because what they then do is they create characters, AI-driven personas that represent the students, the staff and faculty, and the bad actors that you're trying to clear and make safe. Those AI-driven personas are placed in that 3D map. So sorry, the 3D map of the school, the digital twin, is placed in the school so they can actually go and train in the school after hours or on a weekend or what have you. Or if that's not possible, they can use the 3D map in any open space. But what they're doing when they go and experience this training, excuse me, is they're encountering these personas as they would in a real situation, and they can interact with them with voice, proximity, with Bluetooth-enabled air pistols, tasers, or batons. So they get the haptic feedback and they point and fire. And these personas, because of the 3D map, are aware with segmentation. They're aware of the surroundings. That means a first responder in training sees the activity of the shooter coming around the bend of the school, up the stairs in the school, through the hallway. Through that, they're able to learn not just how to respond, but actually build muscle memory and decrease the time it takes to make decisions in these incredibly critical situations. I'll give you one morbid example. A squad enters the building with spatial audio, they enter the building, there's a student who has been shot and is bleeding, but is still alive. Then they hear gunfire, and with spatial audio, they have a general sense of where it came from. Depending on if you're the first, second, third, or fourth person in that squad, there are different responsibilities that you have. And so the first one will come up and recognize this injured person and have to make the decision: do I stop and help them, and maybe I can save their life, or do I continue on and stop the shooter and make it safe for everybody? That decision, and I don't know the actual metric, so let's say that decision takes 2 seconds, and it's supposed to take, or a veteran who's very good at this can do it in 1.2 seconds. This training can help the police officer reduce their decision time to make the right decision faster and save lives. They, as part of this sort of suite of applications and packages that they have, they also have ones that involve de-escalating situations. So put active shooter aside now and then think about, let's say police are called out to deal with somebody who's drunk and disorderly outside a bar. And then what they're doing is they're interacting with this persona, and they can, the task that they're trying to complete is to de-escalate the situation. And if they do it right, then they can just talk to the character, get him or her to calm down, de-escalate the situation and everything, and then they've done well. If they're not able to do that, then one other route or possibility is they end up arresting whoever it is. And then if they do incredibly badly, they resort to violence, and the character gets violent and has a weapon or whatever. So learning how to deal with those situations by interacting with a character that is AI driven is incredibly powerful. Both of those situations, both of those scenarios can be done many, many, many times a day. So think about that current situation where they're doing it with actors in a warehouse, and they can do it 3, maybe 4 times a day, versus 15, 20, 30 times, and you can really, really practice, really grow muscle memory or capability there. Now, that's the good part. And this training is slowly starting to permeate because AR really enables this. and the AI is now, with conversational and generative really getting better. And this is going to transform training for the first responder industry. But this is the part that got us to, to pause. Not completely pause, but just take a beat, which is, in those de-escalation scenarios, you're dealing with a persona. You're dealing with a character. And that character needs to be trained. And that character needs to represent all the worst aspects of criminality in our society today. We started thinking about, is there enough thought being placed in not perpetuating stereotypes? Are we working with a company that's automatically jumping to that character needs to be a black man in a hoodie? So that's one sort of big area of concern. And then the second was, what if this somehow gets out and is taken out of context, and somebody says, so-and-so company is creating, racist stereotype characters to train the police. Terrible. So it opened an entire area of thought that we were ill prepared for, and it was unexpected on our parts, how to deal with it, what questions we should ask of our partners, our providers, even to things like, where's this data being stored, and who has access to it, and what is the context in which it's going to be used. And we realized that this is sort of a whole area that requires governance of some sort. And I mean that on a bunch of different levels, like our own governance within the company. How do we treat this? And who are the right people to do that? Because it wasn't my team. We were smart enough to recognize that we weren't smart enough to deal with this, or didn't have the experience and expertise to grapple with some of these issues. But what's also partially reassuring is that there are groups that deal with this, and they exist. And they exist at Verizon, and they exist elsewhere. But it's just not something we had thought about in advance because it's such a new area, and what we were doing, helping police, reducing, hopefully making the response for active shooters, or first responders better, markedly better. That's
Yeah.
That's where we were. Sorry.
And we've actually worked. There's another project also with great intentions that didn't fully get off the ground, but we were going to work with the Navajo Nation to preserve the elder stories because so many people had been lost during COVID. So we were going to make a volumetric capture of the elders. They could tell their story, and then also tie them into an AI that they could basically tell the youth more information about the Navajo culture even after they passed. So again, super great intentions from the very beginning, but as we started discussing more, we ran into things like, actually, after you've captured that elder or taken their all their information, what if they do pass, and then are you allowed to update the AI engine after that point, They've given their likeness, they've maybe approved it to them, but maybe more information is necessary later on, but they don't get a chance to see it. Are you allowed to, enhance their brain, the AI brain, with this new information? So just interesting, all these ethical things that kind of get unlocked when you actually start the process. So thank you very much for that, Niko. So I think the final takeaway on Niko's is this idea of, per Spider-Man, yeah, great power comes great responsibility, even with the very best intentions. So I think that was the interesting thing with Niko's story was when it was first responder, like everyone is 100% supportive of that. And then, oh man, you still find things that are challenging that way. So the 3, experiment early, design for human and AI collaboration, and explore responsibly. Would love to take the final few minutes just for audience questions, if possible. Yeah. And there's a mic up there as well.
Please use the mic here so we can get on the broadcast as well.
Thank you, and please excuse me if this question seems nonsensical. If it does, that's fine. But the question for Niko simply is, do the AI characters in your simulation understand that they're in a training, or do they believe that there's an active shooter in that they are dealing with? Does that make sense? Is there a distinction between that, or no? They're doing this for the benefit of police officers, or just because this is who they are? They're students in an active shooter situation. Does that make sense or no?
No, I'm sorry. Can you elaborate on the question?
The question simply is, is the entire simulation set up in a way that the characters within the simulation understand that they are in the simulation for the benefit of training police officers?
No, they are not.
Okay.
So it's not a virtual actor acting as a
No,
robot.
yeah,
It's literally a digital copy of a not that nice person.
Right, they are behaving because that's who they believe they are.
The title of this session was The Ultimate Tech Trifecta: AI, 5G, and XR Join Forces to Reshape the Digital World. Can you comment a little bit more on 5G? We had some great insight on AI, some great insight on XR.
Thank you so much. And if you can give them that $50.
Yeah.
So yes, and I think you might have just saved my job because the 5G component, and I did briefly mention this at the beginning, high bandwidth, edge compute, and low latency. But low latency, if you have low enough latency, then you can move compute from your device, which is your AR glasses or your VR headset, and the single CPU and GPU that's on that device. Instead, you can move it to the cloud, and you can take advantage of however big the server farm is that you're accessing, and all the CPUs and GPUs that are in the cloud, and use that compute, render it there, and send it back down to the device. That means higher fidelity content. In the situations that we were talking about, that means people that look like people. Not necessarily photorealism, because we're close, but we're not quite there yet, but getting closer. However, in some of those situations that I was describing, if you're in a school and you're walking through the hallway and you're trying to find the shooter, within the headset they might be at the end of the hallway coming around the corner. The fidelity of that content isn't. I mean, it needs to be of a certain level, but it doesn't need to be up close, pixel perfect, Hollywood VFX beautiful. The de-escalation scenarios where you're talking to the character and you need to be able to look at facial expressions and, are they drunk? Are they high? Are they dangerous? And read body language and nonverbal communications. Then it's a little bit more important. But the key component to what we've just gone over really is conversational AI. In many situations with Wi-Fi and 4G today, if I ask you a question, hi, how are you doing? I know, or we all know, exactly how long it should be before you respond. And if you don't respond in that time, it's weird, it's uncomfortable, or you're just rude. So if I say, hi, how are you doing? And then there's uncomfortable pause, it's just, then you're in the uncanny valley and it's blech. 5G enables that natural, because of the low latency, natural flow of conversation back and forth.
And I just want to comment, like that visual jump. So we did another project with the Verizon team, happened to win an Augie yesterday, but It's a NFL football training, and with NVIDIA as a partner using remote rendering. The improvement is not like an incremental improvement. It's like going from 10 million polygons in device to 100 million, on in real time. So that feeling of reality is a huge jump. It's not just a little bit of a benefit.
Okay. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so we'll have to move on to the next session. But if we could thank our speakers once more.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.